Have you ever wondered what it takes to completely, spectacularly, and dare I say stylishly ruin your life? Well, you're in luck. Today we are cracking open the Moron Manual, which is, believe it or not, a brilliant guide on learning from other people's mistakes so you don't have to make them yourself.
And this quote right here, it really just says it all. This is the core philosophy of our little guide. I mean, why go through all the trouble and mess of screwing up your own life when you can get a front row seat to someone else's train wreck and just, take notes? It might be the most efficient form of self-help out there.
So yeah, consider this your masterclass. We're about to meet a few, let's call them charmingly flawed individuals who have basically turned self-sabotage into an art form. We're gonna laugh, we're definitely gonna cringe, and hopefully we'll learn exactly what not to do.
All right, lesson number 1 in our journey of self-demolition is all about the delicate art of alienating your friends and setting your bank account on fire, with flair, of course.
First up, let's talk about Karen. In her mind, she's a strategic genius, but in reality, her brain cells checked out a long time ago. See, Karen's life mission was to perfectly copy this Instagram influencer named Alex, a person so digitally flawless they could probably make a monk trade in enlightenment for a good ring light.
Her downfall played out in 3 pretty clear steps. First, her cozy, normal apartment was sacrificed at the altar of Alex, transformed into this sterile, white-walled shrine. Next, she maxed out every single credit card to fund a lifestyle that was a complete and utter fantasy. And the grand finale? A disastrous attempt at some influencer yoga pose that ended with a twisted ankle, a bruised ego, and the crushing realization that she was chasing a filtered, fake reality.
Okay, next up we have Gary. Gary was a firm believer in love at first sight. Now, it's a romantic idea, sure, but for Gary, it was less of a sweet philosophy and more of a life-ruining liability. This belief led him straight to a woman named Tiffany, who the manual beautifully describes as a human tornado in a sequin dress.
The chaos that came next was, well, totally predictable. Their wedding was this horrifying mix of burlap and bling that she insisted on calling rustic glam. The honeymoon was an absolute masterclass in misery. And his marriage, it quickly devolved into this state of domestic slavery where he cooked, cleaned, and paid for Tiffany's endless whims while she found fault in absolutely everything, including, and I'm not kidding, the sun being too bright.
All right, so we've covered personal ruin. Let's shift gears now into the professional world. Lesson 2 is all about how to take a perfectly good career and just drive it straight off a cliff. Let me introduce you to Barry. Barry was physically incapable of saying the word no. He was a professional people pleaser, and his life was just this never-ending series of commitments he couldn't possibly keep, which, of course, led to a severe case of chronic burnout.
And this breakdown of Barry's day, it's pretty staggering. He spent the vast majority of his time, 75%, just fulfilling other people's requests. That left almost no time for his actual job, let alone for himself. His desk basically became a graveyard of half-finished projects, and his mental health paid the ultimate price for his inability to set a single, simple boundary.
Barry's wake-up call finally came during a super cringy mandatory team building retreat of all places. Surrounded by forced trust falls and awkward group hugs, he had this massive revelation. He was so busy saying yes to everyone else that he'd completely forgotten to say yes to his own needs. And that was the start of his long journey to reclaim his life. And now for a classic career killer, the office romance. For Mark and Olivia, it all started innocently enough, some banter over spreadsheets. But pretty soon, those inside jokes devolved into petty arguments, and the whole thing just imploded during a huge meeting when Mark publicly accused Olivia of sabotaging their project.
The breakup was a public spectacle, and it turned the entire office into a battleground. That once friendly atmosphere? Gone. It became a total minefield of tension and distrust. The relationship didn't just end, it imploded, leaving behind this massive cautionary tale about the dangers of mixing your personal and professional lives.
Okay, we've had our fun with these spectacular failures. But beyond all the sarcasm, the Moron Manual has some genuinely powerful lessons. So let's pivot for a second and look at the real takeaways from all these cautionary tales.
So what's the real lesson here? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Karen's story shows us that chasing a digital ghost leads to a very real bankruptcy of both your finances and your self-worth. Barry teaches us that every yes you give to someone else can be a profound no to your own sanity.
From Gary, we learn that building a life on infatuation is like building a house on a trap door. And Mark and Olivia, they're the ultimate reminder that The Office is not a rom-com, and the fallout from a bad romance can poison the well for literally everyone.
And that brings us to the end. As we wrap this up, I'll leave you with this one question to chew on. Looking at Karen, Gary, Barry, or our office lovers, which one of their blunders felt just a little too familiar? It's a tough question, for sure, but answering it is the first step to making sure you don't end up in the next edition of the manual.